This episode, right to repair. Well, have you tried to fix something and found out that there's some sort of software lock on it that doesn't allow you to proceed? Well, this is called a right to repair problem or issue, as we want to say. And in this issue, in this episode, we're going to delve into this issue. Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros Radio Show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. This edition is entitled Right to Repair. And to help me explain, it's my ever-cheerful co-host and repairman, Mr. Johnny. Johnny, what has been going on this week?
Well, I haven't come up against a right to repair yet, but you'll be surprised and shocked. So I'm looking at my deck. I got another 10 boards to replace.
What?
Yeah.
Is there any part of your deck that's not going to be replaced at this point? I didn't even think you had 10 boards left.
I just got it's the deck is what, 24 by 24, so it's pretty big, and it's just for me, just picking away at it like I have been over the last year and a half. It's like, no, it's all going to have to go. I mean, now it's gone. So, but that's okay. Most of it still looks pretty good, but there's some boards that's like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. I'm back at this thing again. I'm getting too old.
So this is only because the weather's been good in the past few days. So
well, and that's exactly right. So I've been out on the deck looking, and I'm like, oh man, it's got to go. So, anyways, there you go.
I'm so glad, I tore my deck down a number of years ago, and I'm so glad I did. We put in a big stone patio, which was just so much better. Anyway, it's just you can't do that. But
there's pros and cons to all that, but it's, oh my God, one of my neighbors is just having their deck redone, the whole thing. And we've talked about this before, and I just, I'm going to end this right now, but that the amount of money that they must be spending,
it's huge.
I can't even imagine. So anyways,
it's crazy. Anyway, with that, before we get started, please, if you would like and subscribe to our shows, we really appreciate it, both on YouTube and or on whichever podcast player you're listening to. It helps the algorithms determine who gets to see these shows and who doesn't. We're mostly showing up in prisons right now, but that's a different issue.
Low life degenerates.
All right, Johnny, let's get into this. Let's just talk a little bit about the right to repair movement, and let's just kind of go over what it is and what's going on. So why don't you start us off?
Yeah, so there's been this movement out there to unlock some of these devices, whether they're, we're going to talk about this in a second, but, everything from iPhones, to large equipment. All the way.
Ice cream machine.
And this is one of the things that, and we're going to get into this. This is one of the things that, you go into McDonald's and the big complaint is, hey, the ice cream machine doesn't work. They're always out. Well, there's a reason for that.
There's a reason for that. Drink machines as well. So those new fancy drink machines are the same thing.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So with the manufacturers, it's the bottom line to it is where they kind of have locked out the rest of us, and only the manufacturer gets into these things to repair them. But people are kind of getting tired of that for a number of reasons.
Correct.
And so,
yeah, it's driven by, and I understand it from the business standpoint, you really don't want an unauthorized technician working on your stuff because they can screw it up and make it worse than it was. But at the same time, there's some things, like you brought up that great example. Was it ice cream machines, John, where it said like it locks itself down when it's out of product? And you have to call the technician to get it brought back in.
Yeah. So there's some of those, even those big, some of these machines are, very expensive.
Very expensive.
You walk into some of these bars and restaurants that have those big margarita machines that are built into the wall, and stuff like that. If those things go on the blink, they've got software in there that to decode what's wrong with them. Right. And the people just, a lot of times they just can't go in there and say, hey man, it could just be something's low. I saw one example from one of these like soft ice cream machines. I can't remember what it was. And I'm not going to name any manufacturers, but they had the whole thing locked down. And so all these stores couldn't fix them, which the store could fix it.
Right.
But they didn't know what was wrong with it.
Yeah.
So it's like, here's what it's akin to for most folks. Let me put this in kind of a perspective, is that, you're driving down the street and, your check engine light goes on. Your check engine light goes on. So,
sorry about that. I had to step away for a second, but that's okay.
And I was just saying that it's like you're driving down the street and the check engine light goes on.
Correct.
But you don't have a reader. You don't know what it is.
Right.
And your car shuts down. So this is the kind of thing where it might be very simple. It might be complicated, but it's a mystery. So they do it that way for a reason, and you can guess what that reason is. So
it's called dollars, baby.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's called yep.
Yeah, so this is leading to a lot of frustration in consumers and or businesses. And for me, having been in the commercial business side of it, like all my vending machines, and between the vending machines and then selling medium and heavy duty trucks and things. And by the way, folks, this is happening in the medium and in transportation in general. The same thing is happening. It also happens on iPhones. It happens on now your home appliances and refrigerators and everything. It's everywhere, and it really for those basic things, like John just said, it really gets annoying. It's just really like it's beyond annoying. But if you buy, just for example, you buy a vending machine, or you buy say a dump truck, right? It's like, I'm going to use a dump truck because that's one that I've had this happen. You spend $200,000 to $250,000 on a dump truck. That truck needs to run every day and make money every single day. And when it goes down because of some little sensor, or because of something that is just something so very simple, and you've got to take it into the shop, and then you're going to pay, you have to pay massive shop rates. And then it's the downtime. It's how long that thing sits there, because they can't jump on it. Right? Yeah,
so here's the thing. I'll just add to that, because it's akin to one of the examples is you crack your iPhone screen, yep, and you can only take it back to Apple to get it fixed.
Correct.
For years that was the thing. Now there's little stores that have popped up to fix that. Some of this big farm equipment. Imagine doing you're in a harvest season, and you've got your big farm equipment going, and it goes down. Well, you would now have to call the manufacturer. It might be a green and yellow type manufacturer.
Correct. Well,
that has to come out themselves. Another mechanic couldn't come out and do it because they can't gain access to the software incorporated in that. So this is what's leading to this whole thing. It's not that it's the individual, that the owner that can fix it, although they can, but you can't just take it anywhere. Now this is what the rub is that it's taking a long time to schedule repairs, and it's very expensive, where the competition is cut out, and competition will breed a better price, right? So it's
price and or time.
So that's what's really at the heart of this, in my opinion, and that's what people are really PO'd about.
Yeah. And to your point, you used a really good example. So, a farmer only has so much time to get that product out of the field before it starts to rot or go bad.
Yeah.
So time is of the essence here. And, back in the day, so growing up on a farm, in the 70s, right? All those farmers in those days knew how to fix their tractors. Mm-hmm. And I mean, dude, they knew how to fix them, and when that harvest time came, if it went down, they had it fixed usually within the same day. It's amazing how fast they get those things fixed up. And that was because they had to. They didn't have a choice. They just didn't have a choice. And so it matters. And what does it equate to you as the listener to us? Well, guess what? Your prices go up as a result. Right? This is why things get more and more expensive. If you can't control that workflow, and you've got to wait on somebody, and you've got time sensitive issues, and even if it's not time sensitive, a true technician is going to charge you more than you are, just based, even in, like, we do DIY, right? Or we do even as handyman. Johnny, how many times do we do handyman jobs where we're less expensive than a plumber to do things like replace a faucet? You know, we're not talking about technical work. We're just talking about replacing faucets.
Yeah, just the simple stuff in that trade. I mean, yeah, I mean that's equatable to what the issues are.
And
it's not that
you
want
to do it yourself, it's less expensive. So, but yeah, keep going.
Right. It's like I said, it's not just the owner, but the owner can't just call, the local mechanic in this case for like a piece of farm equipment,
right,
that knows how to fix this thing, because that guy can't get access to it.
Correct.
Let alone the farmer. So, it's the same, it's all this kind of stuff. And so.
And we want to be clear, this is prevalent in consumer electronics, but it's also really prevalent in heavy equipment and transportation. And that goes from your car all the way up to tractor trailers. And folks, I worked in the industry, and I absolutely understand that it's a part of the infrastructure of the United States as far as transportation goes, that everything moves on a truck. And you need to understand that when somebody gets locked out of getting their truck repaired in a timely manner, all it does is increased cost by a huge amount too, by the way. Farmers, same thing. But even your cars, look at your car. You go to take your car into a dealership, and I'm not bagging on any particular dealerships. It's just dealerships in general. It actually applies into when we talk about the trade gaps, and that they don't have enough technicians to actually work on anything. And I don't want to go off. We've talked about that a number of times, but we can't get enough young people, or younger people, I'm going to put it that way, into working in the trades because they don't want to anymore. They're more interested in doing other sorts of things, but they can't repair it because they just don't have enough staff to do it. So it's all of that. It's medical devices, right? These are life-saving things.
I mean, this is or quality of life things. It's just
Correct.
it's really we have really gone to. Here's the other thing. I mean, let's be honest. When we were growing up, everything you could take apart.
Yep. Sure enough.
Now everything is snapped together with plastic, and you can't even get the stuff apart.
No.
I mean,
Without
these
breaking
appliances, or whatever's sitting on your countertop, blenders, nothing. So. So on the other side of this argument, right, the manufacturer is going to say what? They're going to say things like their safety and security. Like Apple will say, don't go messing with your phone because somebody's be able to hack it.
It's hacking. It's proprietary software. It's proprietary knowledge in general. And I as a business person, I understand all of that sort of thing, and I do get it. But honestly, changing the screen out, if that's a software hack, that's a bit of a stretch.
Here's this, the one thing that really set this thing on fire, if I recall right, was the battery life in the iPhone. Remember, people would have to trade these things in all the time because the batteries would go. Then Apple said, well, you can schedule your iPhone and we'll replace the battery. Well, they don't, okay, great. They want to sell a new phone. Well, then this right to repair thing, that's when all these little shops opened up to replace your battery.
Correct.
Because I think Apple, I don't know how much Apple was charging at the time. It was a lot. And then
it was a lot.
And then these other guys, Joe and Jim Nerd opened up a little shop down the street, threw a sign out front, and they're replacing batteries all day long for $40 or whatever $80, whatever it turns out to be.
It wasn't 300.
It wasn't 300. Yes, that's what. And then everybody got to looking around saying, well, this was the excuse that all the manufacturers are starting to use. Hey man, don't get into that blender. That commercial blender.
Yeah. Well, I guess, it boils down to, are these legitimate concerns that the manufacturers have, or are they just efforts to churn dollars,
Right.
And some of them, like if you use the example of your margarita machine or your ice cream machine, and it shuts itself down when it needs to be refilled, that's a push.
So this is one of the examples that I heard, that one you just cited. And that's what really was ticking off these franchisees of these companies that had these particular manufacturers' machines in there. And when they started to find out,
customers, right? And conversely, their customers. So
it's a source. It hinders their revenue, right?
Yes.
When it was a simple thing. Now, the other thing that happened in this particular manufacturer, and I won't say who it is, but then somebody hacked the software and released their own open source software so that these franchisees could get in and read the codes. They couldn't even read the codes. That's how tightly this thing was locked down.
Well, the market responded, and
market responded with a pirate piece of software that they all did, and so it's like, we're gonna if we have to, we're gonna take this over ourselves, because these machines were, man, I mean, some of them are really expensive. You'd be surprised,
Johnny. Like what, $100,000?
No, they're
like
not that
much money.
No, but some of them can be 15,000. I mean, some of them are. I mean, but now you've got a bunch of them. I mean, this is something that these people, you buy equipment like that. That's a big capital investment for a small restaurant. And hey, you expect the thing to work, and if it goes out, hey, I want to get it fixed. Right. And they're like, no, we got to schedule a guy from the factory themselves to come out, carry a bag with a bunch of tools. And
I want to delve into the economics of this just one more second on this one, and I don't want to beat it to death. But folks, if you want to do something really interesting sometime, walk into any restaurant, any store, do it in your house. Every time when you walk in that store, just tab up what they've got sitting there in that store, right? So number one, like just say tables and chairs. How much money do they have tied up in tables and chairs? How much money do they have tied up in fryers? How much do they have tied up in this, in that, in the next thing? And you say, oh, it's only $15,000, but it's not. It ends up being an absolute huge amount of money when you start adding up the total number of things that somebody has. And not to draw the parallel right now, because we're not going to get into a political discussion, but that's going on right now with certain people, and we're just going to leave it at that. But when you start adding up that it's only this and it's only that, when you say it's only, you need to readjust that it is not only, it is this. It is this, and then
it's the opportunity cost of if this thing goes down.
Correct.
In addition, so there's a lot to this equation.
Right. And it ends up being a ton of money for a business person. And then when it doesn't work, trust me, I'm the worst when it comes. It's one of the few things I get incensed when things don't work right. Drives me bonkers.
Yeah,
crazy.
Yeah. Well, and if it's your business, then it's really worse. Something, and that's what a lot of these things precipitated here. Yeah. I was where was I at? I was at a restaurant one time, and they had all these margarita machines, in the wall, these frozen drink machines.
Sure.
And I just sat down and I looked at the manufacturer on that, and then I saw I could read some of the model numbers and stuff. So I just got into my phone and I just, the user manuals, so I'm reading about all these things and the exploded parts breakdown and all that shit. And then there, and
things a handyman does.
Yeah. I mean, so that's me, right? I'm taking it apart, man. The first thing I'm doing, but and there it is, it's like, well, you got to hook up all this stuff and, figure out what the code is to fix this, to fix that. I mean, you can take it apart, but it ain't going to do you any good because you won't know. So, right. I mean, some of the computers, right? So remember when you used to be able to just work on your car, the Shade Tree Mechanic, right? Now you can't even read the codes. Even you'd have to buy. I mean, you can, but you have to buy, maybe a computer that costs about $7,000. Like BMWs and Mercedes and things like that are really, everything is hooked to the computer itself. Windows, everything.
Yep.
And you need to buy these mechanics that have to buy a very expensive piece of equipment to read all the codes in there.
And then they need the software patches every year.
And then
every year ongoing expense.
But here's the other thing that's and you mechanics out there, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I had a mechanic buddy a couple of years ago, and we were talking about it, and they have rolling codes, so you have to have the latest software in your computer because these things have rolling codes. And he's like, this is insane. Because he was a BMW repair shop, and he's like, yeah. This is it's insane. So
same thing with all the major engine manufacturers.
That's correct.
Trucks.
It's all going. Everything is. You want to eke out the best emissions that you can, so that precipitates. Every.
Whole nother discussion that we're not going to have. Right.
Yep.
About some of the reasons why all this stuff is the way it is, and it's because of things like that. Anyway, we don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
So. All right. So just to quick things, what's happening in the laws? So there are laws now that are starting to be passed saying that there is this thing called right to repair. And so it depends on your state, but there's also some federal stuff that's coming down the pike. And we're not going to get into that because we're not really that, but there is some legislation now that's happening that there's a right to repair, that you have the right to repair. So it's kind of a good thing. It's one of the, it's one of those few things. It's taking it a bit out of the manufacturer's hands and putting it back into the owner's hands, which is a good thing. You might not have the skill to do the DIY fixes and stuff yourself, but it's the ability to make it more accessible for other professionals to do it, which just lowers costs and reduces time, because if you can't get the techs, somebody can always do it for less is what it is. And that's kind of the way it goes. So it ends up being a pretty clear win for consumers. And we understand on the safety concerns, and for certain products, like for example, Johnny, you're an A&P mechanic, right? So you have aviation power plant mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Don't think we need that being opened up to the public, right?
No. If you're a shade tree mechanic and, I'm not flying on that plane with you, but, you go ahead.
Well, but to the point is so if you're working on a Continental 235, right, which is an air-cooled 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder engine.
Yeah.
Pretty simple mechanically, pretty simple mechanically, but still requires a bit of it requires a federal license to do it legally, and some insurance as well. Those kinds of things I understand about keeping some of this stuff in place. But for other things that are non-critical and truly non-safety oriented,
like an ice cream machine.
like an ice cream machine is a great example. A vending machine, kind of thing. Not like the world doesn't stop if it doesn't work, But the world at the same time, the business guy needs it to work. So that's kind of where I'm going with this. So the laws are changing and things are starting to happen. What other things do we need to talk about with this one, Johnny?
No, nothing. I was just when you brought this up to me, I thought it was a good thing because, for all you guys out there that are listening, just that are handymen or homeowners that are DIY and stuff, I'm sure that if you haven't run up against this yet, you probably are going to. But what we're talking about here. So, we all like to tinker around and fix things, but,
well,
it's very frustrating.
Funny, Johnny. I got into the handyman business mostly because for all of my life, ever since I was a little kid, I would take things apart. And back in the day, I took the lawnmower apart. Back when I was probably 6 years old, I took the lawnmower apart and I put it back together and it actually worked, but that started me down this path of just understanding how things work. And today I can take all these things apart and it's like, okay, now what? Because it's a circuit, it's a printed circuit board. And you kind of get to the point you're like, this doesn't, it doesn't help me.
Yeah, it's not that easy anymore.
Yeah, it's just not that easy.
Yeah.
And so it's just changed how we do things. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's different. But when you get locked out, especially on some of this easy stuff, it's like, I'm going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's the other thing. I think if you guys out there that are listening as we're wrapping up this episode, is that, this could be an opportunity for you at some point that, if you really want to get in and learn and be a tech on some of these things, that if they're going to unlock this stuff, the market's going to be, there'll be a market for you. It won't just be the manufacturer.
Market. Yeah, it won't be just the manufacturer, and it's just, I mean, I totally understand what the manufacturers are trying to do, but in some ways it's a forced vertical integration. They're trying to basically wrap you into a franchise you can't get out of.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly it. That's exactly it.
Not picking on anybody, but there's a certain automotive manufacturer that does that you can't even buy body panels for the vehicles, and because it's proprietary, the body panel's proprietary. No, It's stamped metals, folks. I hate to break it to you. Not naming any names. Anyway, with that, Johnny, what else we got? Anything?
That's it, Larry. Did you get a visit from the aliens lately?
I did, and they were telling me that the last time they abducted you, they put their proprietary. Never mind. Never mind.
The proprietary probe.
Proprietary probe.
That's right, Larry. Only they can do that.
We're gonna stop.
So there you go.
All right, folks. If you like this show, please like and subscribe us on YouTube and on the podcast player of your choice. We really appreciate it. If you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, hit us up with an email, questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. We do answer those things. And folks, we're looking for ideas. If there's anything you want to hear about, let us know, because we really are interested in this stuff. Johnny, I got to tell you, I was up at the National Air and Space Museum the other day. We did a show on space toilets at one time, and I read about that at the National Air and Space Museum. I was like, hey, I know all about this because Johnny and I did a show on this already. It was kind of interesting. Anyway, sorry about that. I digressed to a degree, but with that, we do take ideas and we'll talk about anything that has to do with pretty much anything. If you have an idea and you want us, send us an email. We will do it. I guarantee you, we'll do anything. Right, Johnny? Won't we?
That's it. All
right.
All
with
right,
that, Johnny,
folks.
take us home, baby.
All right, folks. Have a great week. Have a safe week. And we will talk to you next time on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.